I'm Rachel and welcome to my Author's Answer video. The Author's Answer series was started by J.D. Archer and his writing group, where they posed questions about reading and writing and answered them. And J.D. has a playlist that I'll link down below along with mine. I try to answer one Author's Answer question a month, and this is my 12th Author's Answer, so I've been doing this for a year. I really encourage people to do these videos if you're writers, because it's a great way to walk the walk, as it were. It also helps that I try to do these things around the time that I'm doing stuff with my writing group, or I'm doing revising like I did tonight. I just came back from a session where I grabbed some pizza and worked on revising a chapter that my writing group critiqued the other week, so huzzah! But anyway, on to question number 12, which is to chronicle some of your favorite children's books. When I look back on my earliest children's books, I remember a wide variety of fairy tales that had been brought down to children's level, like in the Little Golden Books and what have you. And there was a particular green book that I really liked, and it had 4 fairy tales in it, and my sister had a red book, and I really appreciated that they were about the same glossy size and everything, and red was her favorite color and green was my favorite color. And now I can barely remember anything about that book. I think there was a story about an egg that rolled down a hill and was well decorated. And I think my sister's copy had the Snow White and Rose Red story. I'm not sure. But it's sort of embarrassing to me that these stories that I consumed before I put cognizant thought into consuming literature, I've largely forgotten about. I wonder if I had that collection here rather than at my parents' house or donated, if I'd remember them better. I'm actually tentatively deciding to do not exactly a fairy tale retelling for my next NaNoWriMo, but something that's inspired by my opinions on Little Red Riding Hood and Peter Pan. I'll say it like that, because that's my disclaimer of not actually following the letter of the land to the nth degree with retelling those stories. But anyway, it's weird to me, because I feel like, I am taken with these Christian fairy tales, and maybe what I should do, what other authors seem to have been doing, is to take other cultures' fairy tales and mythology and put them into retellings. And another one of my favorite books as a child was a collection of Jewish folklore called Rachel the Clever, which of course I loved because of the title, I'll admit. The collection is, I think, a rather stereotypical smattering of Jewish folk tales. There's a lot that revolve around the village of Helm, where the villagers are rather simple-minded but lovable. And then there's a lot of stories that revolve around the idea of cleverness and around one-upping people and showing off your mental smarts. And that's what Rachel the Clever was about. She was a commoner, but a king wanted to marry someone who could match his wits, and so he set a riddle to her, and she answered it rather quickly, and then later on she was able to kind of one-up him again and get him off his guard again. I'm making it sound rather adversarial, but anyway, it's about a woman who uses the power of her mind and surprises the people around her, and what's not to love about that? As I started to grow into my preteen years and beyond, I remember having an obsession with the Babysitter's Club Little Sister books, and then ultimately the Babysitter's Club books. I really liked Mallory. She was one of the younger girls, and she was a sort of a shy writer type. And I just remember being so entranced by those checkered covers that were in style when I was that age, and I got my mom to buy me a new book every time we were at the dollar store or something, or at least I hope it was the dollar store. But that was something that started to really compel my love of reading chapter books, and I still call my favorite book of all time. I know I probably should grow up a bit, but my favorite book of all time, I read probably when I was around 11 or so, is called Daphne's Book by Mary Downing Hahn, and it's a story about a young girl named Jessica on the cusp of middle school-esque change, where her friendships are evolving and people are changing faster than she is and getting into new activities and likes like boys that she isn't yet getting into, and she's paired off with a even more standoffish and less popular girl named Daphne to do a school project, and through it, of course, she learns more about Daphne's history and they become close friends, and there's other stuff going on, and she has to make more adult decisions in a way about things that she didn't have to think about as a child. Anyway, I love that book, and in fact, concerning my own recently published short story, Quarter Life, I named my main character Jessica after the character in Daphne's book, and I also sort of have some homages to Daphne's book in my short story, because I kind of think of it as a different sort of Bildungsroman of a young adult type where she's going through similar things. And finally, some other books that I read around 11 that I really adored. Ones that I read in school were Bridge to Terabithia by Catherine Paterson, and A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle, a book that I actually remember quite well, unlike the fairy tale books. Unlike a lot of books that I've read more recently, I remember this one surprisingly well. And so, of course, I did go see the recent movie, and as much as I respect what Disney and Ava DuVernay were trying to do by I think they were really trying to prop up the idea of Meg's character and coming into her own, and I thought Storm Reid did a fantastic job with it, and it was nice to see the sciences so well presented and have a little girl have an aptitude for that. I think that was all great, and it was visually stunning, but it was so much less than the book. And that was a bit disappointing. But I will, hopefully, by the end of the month, have a review up on my reading and writing blog, because I tend to like to write adaptation reviews whenever it strikes my fancy. I just gotta sit down and write. That's always the thing. So that's where I'll leave you for now. You know, it's fortunate, I'm sure, that I got into my love of reading when I was young, and I appreciate how all of these books shaped me in those formative years, but of course, no matter when you start reading, the important thing is to read, and if you want to be a writer, to read and learn from books, but wherever you start is a good place to start. I guess I'm going on a moralizing tick, speaking of children's literature, I suppose, but yeah. Thank you so much, JD and your writing group, for this question, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.